It was the evening of November 10th, 1965, and I had tickets to see Ella Fitzgerald at Carnegie Hall. I remember clutching those tickets like they were golden. They might as well have been. Ella was already a legend by then, and getting to hear her perform live felt like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The hall was packed, buzzing with an air of anticipation. The audience was a mix of young and old, jazz aficionados and casual listeners alike. Everyone seemed to know they were in for something special. As I settled into my seat, the house lights dimmed, and the chatter melted into silence. Ella walked onto the stage, a vision in a glittering gown that shimmered under the lights. She had that warm, gracious smile that made you feel like she was happy to see you, personally. The applause was thunderous. Everyone was on their feet before she'd even sung a note. She gave a little wave, humble as ever, and took her place in front of the microphone. Then the music started, and the world seemed to shift. Her band was impeccable, tight, polished, and swinging with a rhythm that made you want to move. But the moment Ella opened her mouth, everything else disappeared. Her voice was like silk, smooth and rich, gliding effortlessly through every note. She started with "It's All Right With Me," and by the end of the first verse, she had the entire room in the palm of her hand. What struck me most about Ella that night was her versatility. She could be playful and light one moment, then heartbreakingly tender the next. She sang ballads like Misty with such emotional depth that I felt a lump in my throat. Her voice seemed to wrap itself around the lyrics, making each word feel personal, as though she were sharing a secret with the audience. Then came the scatting. Oh, the scatting. I'd heard it on her records, of course, but hearing her do it live was something else entirely. She launched into How High the Moon, and somewhere in the middle, she took off into a scat solo that was nothing short of otherworldly. She played with rhythms, bent notes, and improvised with a freedom that left us all breathless. It was like watching a master painter create a masterpiece in real time. You could see her joy in the music, the way she laughed and grinned as she found new, unexpected melodies. The audience couldn't get enough. After every song, the applause was deafening. People were shouting, whistling, calling her name. She seemed almost shy in the face of such adoration, but she gave us everything she had. One of the highlights of the evening was her rendition of Summertime. The room fell utterly silent as she began, her voice soft and haunting. It was as if time itself had stopped. By the time she reached the final note, you could hear people sniffling, myself included. But Ella knew how to bring us back up. She closed with a swinging, upbeat version of Mac the Knife, and by the end, the entire hall was on its feet, clapping and cheering. She gave a little bow, her face glowing, and walked off stage. Of course, the crowd wouldn't let her go so easily. We clapped and clapped until she returned for an encore. She sang A Tisket, A Tasket, the song that had made her famous, and it was like a joyful celebration of her incredible journey. Walking out of Carnegie Hall that night, I felt like I'd witnessed magic. Ella wasn't just a singer, she was a storyteller, a poet, an artist who could take you on a journey with every note. Even now, decades later, I can still hear her voice in my mind, as clear and vibrant as it was that night. It was a performance I'll never forget.